Good morning. My name's Marilyn Maxwell, and I'm with HAR. We're going to be talking about some of the fundamentals of putting together a CMA today. What makes a good comp and what doesn't, basically, is what this course covers. And if you've got questions along the way, just let me know. And after that, you are more than welcome to email or call. I do teach an awful lot, or I'm driving to where I'm going to teach, so email works a little better for me in that regard. I apologize up front. You'll get my voicemail if you call, but I will call you back. So you're welcome to do that, and I'll put that back up at the end of class to be sure that you have it. But like I say, throughout the class, just let me know if you've got questions, and I'll try to address those as they come up. All right, and we are going to be using Fusion today. Are y'all familiar with Fusion? Somewhat? Okay, we have used Fusion or we have opened Fusion? One or the other? Okay, good. All right. Well, a couple of different things to start with. We are going to dive into the actual searching for comps here in just a moment. One of the first sources that the handout mentions and that you would go to for information about the house is the seller, right? The owner of the home. So you would ask them things about it, whether they remodeled it or if there's been updates, any foundation issues, all of those things. Kind of a first uncomfortable first conversation, asking them everything about their house and then everything about their financial situation, right? But it's important to know if they are about to go into one of those foreclosure, short sale type situations, a distressed situation. If they have done repairs to the home or if they know of issues, are they willing to repair or contribute money so that the new buyer could? So in the very beginning of the process, it is important to know that information from them. But again, that can be kind of an uncomfortable first conversation, right? My name's Tom, and tell me everything about your financial situation. The other source of information is public records. Excuse me. And currently we are running two different tax platforms side by side, and we're going to be phasing out one of those two, just to make sure you're aware of that. Stewart Title's interface will be going away in about 60-ish days, and we'll be switching over to Realist. I noticed your printouts were from Realist, so you've transitioned over to that one, or you started with that one maybe.
I started with that one.
That's good. Well, I learned something that's going away, right? Mm-hmm. So we still have, like I say, about 60 days or so on that. The handout reflects Stewart screenshots, but I'm going to take you into Realist today just to make sure you're aware of how that program works. So having said that, let's go there. Okay. And I didn't say, but are you familiar with how to get into Realist? I know she is, but I'm sorry, what's your name?
I'm Marcia.
Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Marilyn.
Nice to meet you as well.
Sorry, I didn't ask either of your names. Okay, so when you first open Fusion, up here at the top where it says Public Records, if you hover there, one of your best friends in Fusion is hovering. If you set your mouse on top of something, it'll kind of tell you what it is or give you the menu options to choose from. If you click right on Public Records, it's going to open that Stewart system. But if you hover and then click Realist, you'll go into that other. And that's just temporary until the Stewart system goes away, and then it'll just be your one option. So this is the opening page of Realist. And one of the most important things in Realist, not to kind of divert too far over into teaching Realist, but right here in tiny letters, it says change region. And that actually means pick a county in their system. So one of the things that's important or cool, if I'm supposed to have, I don't think I'm supposed to have an opinion, but if I did, I think it'd be cool that we can search in more than one county at a time. The Stewart system limits us to one county at a time, so only Fort Bend, only Montgomery, only Waller. In the Realist system, I can do up to 8 different counties simultaneously, and they don't have to be within that same MLS coverage area. So you might notice up here I have Brazoria, but then I have Brazos, which is around Bryan College Station, coincidentally. But if I'm not certain if a home's in Harris or Montgomery, or if I want to do a search for property, one side of 45 and the other side of 45, one might be Houston, or Harris County rather, and one might be Montgomery. So this will help in that regard. And again, you just check the boxes to select up to 8. And you can see down here it says I have 7 out of my 8 already selected. So when you first log in, just be really sure that you have at least the county that you want to search in, but it's always good to have the main 6, the serviced 6. I call them Brazoria, Fort Bend, Montgomery, Harris, Waller, Galveston. So as long as those are checked, again, you get 2 bonus locations. And then for today, I'm going to be searching for one particular property that we're going to pretend to use as our subject property. If you want to follow along, 310 Crossbow is what I'm using. If you want to use your own home, that's just fine. If you have, again, a listing that you're working with, you can use that address, any address that you're most comfortable with. I'm going to focus on the functionality, so the words that you're seeing on the screen, it's okay if they don't match up with mine if it's a different property, whatever makes you most comfortable. And then once you're ready to go, you just hit this search button. And it does one of two things. Either it pops open the full report automatically for you, which mine is doing, or it shows you that kind of split screen grid with the map at the top and the grid at the bottom. What's yours asking you? Just to verify.
It has the address there, but it's saying search again. Property suggestion.
That's the correct one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it's checked. So go ahead and click search. Search means I want to pick that one and search for that one.
Okay.
The verbiage is just a little odd, but that's what that meant.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct, is what search meant in that case. And were you able to pull up a property as well?
No, but you go ahead.
Working on it?
And,
Okay. And then on yours looks just a little different. Right here where it says split, if you'll click there, just
Right
there you go. And this is, go ahead.
I heard you, if you just click on public records, it goes to Stewart. If you
Correct.
hover, then you select Realist.
Correct.
You can. Okay.
That's right. Then it gives you the option to do that.
Interesting.
Yep. And in Tempo, if you hover on that tax button, you'll see you have the option for both Stewart and Realist that way as well. Just so you know your other agents if they had a question about it. If you double click the property, then it'll open the page I'm on. Okay? You're welcome. All right. So this is what they call their property detail report, the full report. And this is where we're going to find a lot of the meat. I use a lot of terms, Marilynisms, I call them. So the meat and potatoes of our CMA and the things that we'll be able to search for or by. Toward the top here, it's got this kind of summary Cliff Notes overview here. 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,660 square feet, 11,000, a little over 11,000 square foot lot built in 75. Right here, since we were talking about that just before class, right here is the subdivision information. So that's how this particular property is listed in tax. One of the fun things about the Woodlands area is just about every house has a different version of how they're listed in tax. So sometimes that subdivision can vary a bit. Village.
It's strange. I put the exact subdivision it has in MLS. It still would not come up.
Well, we may have something else canceling out that. And also sometimes, like on this particular case, Oak Ridge North A, what I'll search for in MLS is actually just going to be Oak Ridge. So I'll leave some of the extra off the end because it's kind of like a wild card search in MLS. Anything that starts with Oak Ridge, and then I don't really care what's at the end. So maybe something like that might help you. And again, maybe that one house happens to have that specific thing written in the tax records, and that's how it auto-populated to MLS, but the one right next to it might have a variation of that. What subdivision is that one in?
The Woodlands Sterling Ridge is how it's listed.
So probably the others are listed in Sterling Ridge. It might not say the Woodlands, or they may have abbreviated, so it may say the WD.
So that's why you can't use subdivision.
You can, you just have to really work a little harder than you think you would have to. You would think that you would just type the word that the subdivision is called, and you would be done, but you have to play with it a little bit.
You have to guess
Yeah.
how the listing agent described it.
Yes.
It's not just true for subdivisions, but also schools.
Mm-hmm.
The Woodlands High School, TWHS,
Mm-hmm.
TWSH when they get a transfer.
Yes.
So you've got to
School of High. Yes. And like Village of Panther Creek, sometimes they spell it out. Sometimes it's VIL period abbreviated, and then often it's VOPC.
That's right.
Completely abbreviated. So that's the fun part of searching for comps.
So
Again,
I've got to learn to do that map.
we'll look at the search by map as well as one of our
You know what's
tools.
awesome? Here's
Tell
my
me.
first suggestion of the day.
Okay.
Like legal subdivision
Mhm.
as a search criteria for schools, there should be a drop-down menu where you have to choose. And that way it's the discretion of how you describe it's taken out of it.
The pros and cons of making them pick a school is if the school boundary changes, then that agent is liable.
Not
And
making them
that's-
choose, but if they choose to put in a school, they have to pick from a list so that it's described the same way.
I see.
Just tell me it's a brilliant idea.
It's a brilliant idea, Frank.
Okay.
It is, and the gears in my, you can't hear the grinding, the gears in my mind are like, how can we make that work? How can we make that work? One of the things on the horizon, HAR is always making something, right? We want to keep going and going and going and creating and building what we already have. One of the layers to the map, when you're drawing on the map, that's a great benefit already. You can just draw a shape and say search in there. I don't know what the subdivision's called, and it'll find it for you just based on geography. Then there are these other layers you can put on top, like the MLS area map can be kind of overshadowed on top, and different layers like that. One of the other things that we're creating currently and working toward launching in the next year or so is a school's boundary layer. So you'll actually see this house on 1234 Maple Street is inside the ABC elementary boundary. So that'll help tremendously. And that's completely not controlled at all by what the listing agent puts in MLS. It's pulled from school district, TEA, and things like that. So,
Okay, so Marilyn, I just pulled up my home, which the home was complete in July, and it still shows a vacant lot with no building. Why would that be?
because that's what the tax records have.
Well, it's not what they're billing me for. They caught up on the appraised rate.
If you look at it in Stewart Title System, does it show something different? Do you mind doing that, please?
I think it does. But I will check here real quick, since now I know how to get into it.
And sometimes there is a little glitch for whatever reason. Something might not have copied over correctly from whatever appraisal district it is into there. And we can fix that. All right, so, yes ma'am.
I can't seem to get to that page. I have the property in, but that page I can't.
Does yours look something like this? Do you have the property listed here?
It comes up a little different.
Comes different.
Than that.
Okay.
This is what I-
And you're in Fusion, that's why, instead of in
Oh, okay.
Realist. So if you just hover on Public Records
And I did.
and click Real, your pop-up blocker is blocking it.
Oh,
So you have to
okay.
go in and turn
All
off
right.
your pop-up blocker.
I'll find that.
Most everything in Fusion opens in a new window, so it'll behoove you to have off the pop-up blocker anyway. All right. Let me uncheck this, go back here. All right, so we are going to be looking for homes, like I mentioned, in the same subdivision. When you're searching for comps for a CMA, I almost said MCE. When you're searching for comps for a CMA, you want to do what I call apples to apples. So as close as possible to the subject. That means geographically as well as its condition, its shape, its size, all of those things. So same number of bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage in the same subdivision if we can find it. Pool or no pool, that should match up. The number of stories should match up if we can do that. So most of the things that we need to know about this home are going to be pretty easily found in the tax record. So again, I've got my subdivision up there. Then we get into the breakdown of the assessed value, and you can see here the current assessed value, the amount of taxes they're paying right now. And then they have what they call the jurisdiction, so the breakdown of who got what out of that, the county and the school district and so forth. This particular property happens to be in a MUD. Right here you can see it says South Montgomery County MUD.
I have one more question for you.
Go ahead.
And I'm not trying to take you off.
No, you're fine.
A perennial issue with us is trying to determine if it's in the city limits or ETJ or neither. Is there anything in Realist that's going to answer that question for us?
Potentially the mapping layers. If you click on this little icon, you've got the different layers. There's MUD districts, which helps, which is only sort of the answer to your question. City limits. If I turn that on, it draws the actual city limit for me.
That would help.
And then, of course, there might be some gray area where the pin's on top of the line. It's still going to be a little hard to tell. The only other thing I could refer you to is back in Fusion in the resources widget. Are you familiar with your resources here?
I am, and I think you're going to refer me to
The ETJ.
the map.
And yeah,
Their shades are so similar.
it's difficult. Yeah, it really is.
Discovered it's inaccurate.
Is it?
It is. If you look at the Woodlands, it tells you one thing, and Raul convinced me that it was incorrect, and he was right.
Definitely, we get that from another source, but I would suggest that you email Nathan@har.com, let him know of what the discrepancy that you found, and we can see if we can get that changed or find a different source for that map or something like that, because we don't ever want to be providing inaccurate information, obviously. So, and we really don't have a way to know if it is. I mean, we can't look up every property to double check, so that's great if you'll help point that out. Okay, so that's mostly an answer to your question, I think. Get you at least one other thing to try. The last little tidbit on the mud, you need to know the bond rate for that mud, for the form. There's a form for that, and you'll find in real estate there's a form for everything. And in Realist currently, they're not showing that bond rate. They're working on the programming. There'll be a link you could click to get that, but right at this very moment, you still have to go into the Stewart title system to get that bond information. So it's just a little temporary extra aerobic if it's in a mud.
By the time Stewart goes away.
We will not take Stewart down until Realist is fixed. That's why they're one of several reasons why they're running side by side. So we wouldn't do that to you. All right, so then we get into the characteristics of the home, they call it. So this is bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, stories, pool, all that good stuff. One of the things to be mindful of in Realist is that if there isn't something, it doesn't talk about it. Meaning, down here in features, does it mention a pool? Nope. So there is no pool. If this home had a pool, it would talk about the pool. Okay, so it's a little different. I know y'all probably aren't all that familiar with the Stewart system on this side of the room, but he might be, and others might be. In Stewart, it would say pool, yes or no, and it would tell you whether it did or didn't. This one just omits that feature, whatever it might be, if it doesn't have one. Okay, same thing with, say, exemptions. If they aren't taking an exemption, then it doesn't talk about the exemptions. This particular homeowner, silly Dean, is not taking any exemptions. So if he had been, right in here somewhere, it would say exemptions : homestead or something like that. Okay?
So maybe it's not his primary residence.
Potentially. All right. So again, we've got our basic concrete facts here. It's bedrooms and bathrooms and square footage, and we know it does not have a pool, and we know it was built in 1975. So again, we're on our way to those basic core facts that we need to know to search for property in MLS to compare it to. A little further down yet, we do have the history sort of this property. So I've got the last known MLS information. If it had sold through MLS, they often will have all that information here. This is ancient real estate history. It sold way back in '06. But it sold at $131,500, and it's only been how many years? Probably not enough for him to pay it off if we go with the stereotypical circumstances. Presume it was a 30-year fixed loan or whatever. Probably still going to owe some. Down here you can see actually the mortgage history even. So we can see he purchased it in '06 with a split loan from this particular lender, and then he refinanced in '08 for the low price of $8,000 more than he had bought it for 2 years prior to that. Okay, so again, he's most likely still paying on that, so he would want to recoup some of that in the sale. He now has an FHA versus conventional. So again, just the type of information you can see. So we know a little bit more. Again, that kind of awkward financial conversation I was talking about. We know a little bit of something about it without having to ask too terribly many deep questions. The last section is the mapping of the property, and Realist is unique from Stewart in that it's got this plat map on the left where it'll actually show you the shape of the lot but the measurements of the lot as well. So you can really see if they have a big wide kind of a wedge-shaped lot on a cul-de-sac or something like that.
And
okay.
might I add, because these two agents probably haven't put a lot of listings in the MLS, that's an incredibly valuable tool. Even if you have a survey of the property, it's sometimes difficult to read. because they'll break down the dimensions according to different issues. And you have to put the lot dimensions in the MLS when you take a listing. So this will save you a tremendous amount of headache.
Lots and lots of magnifying glasses, no longer in use.
Better than a survey.
Yes. So that's good. And then if you're into math, which I'm not, you can do length times width plus length times width and get your square footage. Just as little, tidbit. And then this is just geographically showing you, hey, this house is physically located right here. And you can see it's kind of a little pocket neighborhood in this particular case. So I probably am not going to find a ton of homes in that area, maybe potentially not even many sales, because it's just a tiny little cluster of streets right there, okay? Or it's the biggest booming 4 streets that ever existed, one or the other. All right, so again, if we go back to our MLS system, we can search for those basic kind of core things to start with and get looking for some comps. Actually, before that, one of the other things we can do in the MLS system, because we saw that home was listed before, we can actually pull its MLS data up in Fusion. And I happen to use the Fast Find, but you don't have to. This little widget always lives in the top left, so it'll always be there. And I just clicked the address tab and typed my 310 Crossbow in there again. And then I'm going to pull up whatever has ever been in MLS about this one physical address.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So did you get completely out?
I just switched the tab back over to, I left that tab open so I can refer to it.
Okay. See, I cannot get used to not being able to use the back button.
Yes, yeah, don't do that. It makes Fusion really mad, doesn't it? Yes, that's one of the quickest lessons you learn. I learned it the hard way, and then if you hit the back button in Fusion, it'll knock you out and make you log back in several times and all that. So
Marilyn.
Yes, sir.
If you had selected the ML tab, you would be able to put in any number of ML numbers.
Separated with commas,
Exactly.
Correct.
Under the address tab, you can only put in 1.
Correct.
And what often happens is a client will hand you a list of 10 addresses that they're interested in. And the only way I know to pull them all up on one report is to look them up one at a time like this, make note of the ML number, then go back to the ML tab and put all the ML numbers in.
That's about the only way I can think of as well.
Okay.
Because if you search in the quick
I
search,
don't know this info. In quick search?
you're just going to have beginning and end address field, 310,
Right.
you
You can't put
street
multiple
name. You can put
addresses.
multiple street names, but you can't put multiple numbers.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know of a way to do that.
Yeah. That would be kind of cool if it gave you a drop down right here on that screen of 10 addresses.
Or just a little plus where you
exactly.
could.
Add another, add another, add another.
Not to, I realize I'm kind of skipping back and forth, so I apologize for that. Because I'm OCD and I can't answer a question with, I don't know that, it's going to kill me. And Frank does this to me. He challenges me and makes me think I like that. In Realist, you can click these little pluses and add another one. So I can search for another city and another city and another city. And I know that you could do that in this particular program, and it gives you the listing, the MLS number. So maybe search for multiple addresses in Realist, get the MLS numbers that way,
Okay.
and go back to MLS. It's still extra mental aerobics, like I say, but maybe eliminating one of your 3 steps. It's only 2 steps instead of 3.
I say take notes. Your email
That's
numbers.
perfect. Call your assistant in. That works as well. So that's the only other workaround I can think of is Realist does let you do multiple of one thing that we couldn't do there. So, all right. So down in the bottom of the address tab, there's a little checkbox on market listings or not. Okay, if it's checked, that's only looking through active, option pending, and pending continue to show. That's what's on the market. If you uncheck it, you're looking for everything else. And we know this property sold back in '06, right? So it's not going to be active, hopefully, right? If they're calling us for a listing appointment, it's not yet active. So we want to make sure that this box is unchecked.
Okay. How do I get back to that? Because I've got all of this.
It's
When I
okay.
hit search.
Just click the home button, and then
Yeah.
it's going to give you quite a few results because you're looking at all the different. Is it a single family home?
Mhm.
Okay. And when you click search here, you got those results?
Uh-huh.
Okay. In this particular search, pros and cons, this home hasn't been in MLS all that often. It's been maybe once or twice. Your address that you're searching by has been through MLS more than one time. So you're getting a much longer list of results for that reason. Okay. In this little fast find, there isn't a way to specify a closing date. So it's looking through the entire universe of MLS data, basically. So you might want to go to the search. You did say single family, right?
Yes.
Okay, so just click right on single family. Do you know about when the property sold last? I'm pretty sure it's here toward the top. Here it is. This particular,
2004?
yes, either place will let you
Oh,
know.
okay.
So if you put the property
If I want to
status,
save
you
here.
do, and it's closed actually. Yeah, you got it.
Oh, I need an S there.
Mhm.
No? Yeah, okay.
And then on the property address, it's a little further down. They call it street number, street name.
Okay.
And I would limit it to 26. So it's just only searching for 20. Does that say 26 or 28?
26.
So put 26 there as well. Then it's only looking for 26. Otherwise, it's anything above 26.
And then I put the
Street. And I would leave circle, court, and those types of things off.
Okay.
Okay? And then if you go to the very bottom of that column, you'll see closing date or closed date.
Yeah.
And that's when you can limit your search. That little box right there, you've got 30, 60, 90, and so forth, which is what we'll do in a moment for our CMA. But since your home sold in 04, you can see how it's giving you sort of an example. It needs 2 dates, 2 for month, 2 for day, 4 for year. So you could type 01, 2004 or something like that through, or you can type the specific closing date, 3/17/04, just to try to get this one house to pull up. And be sure to put an end date on that as well, otherwise it's searching through today.
So, would I put the same date?
Right.
I see.
Since that's what it's showing as the close date, it should find just the one property, hopefully. All right. And you don't have any matches though.
What did I do?
So let's do, I'm sorry, even with my glasses on, I'm not able to see very well, so I'm going to just lean uncomfortably close to you for a moment. Okay. You look
That's
at,
the street number, South Shape Hollow. I didn't put in the core. I tried putting in South, without.
without the S.
And it didn't come up on
Okay.
the tax records.
And then what did you put for your closing date range?
1/1/2004 to 1/1/2000.
Oh, but it sold in,
Oh,
yeah.
That's what's wrong.
Yeah.
I need to put 3/17. Okay, I got you.
Okay, it's okay.
I'm sorry, I was late.
It's okay.
I'm probably gonna have to leave early too. But I do use this, and from what you're working on now, like if I have I'm getting ready to list something,
Mhm.
okay? And I put in the address, and I'm gonna look for old,
Previous MLS.
previous
Uh-huh.
MLS. Okay, but if I want to take that and then do, like a CMA around it, to find out what everything's selling around it,
You can do, the previous MLS entry would be exclusive of searching around it. When you're,
do you have to have an active MLS number?
no,
Okay.
you don't. If we go into the search, single family search, are you familiar with opening the map? Looking at the map view in
Yeah.
MLS?
Yeah.
There's
Yeah, and then.
um,
and then it's
the
the
circle,
listed.
rectangle, polygon.
Okay.
You can actually draw a circle a half mile around any
Oh,
center point.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to have ever been an MLS. It doesn't currently have to be an MLS. There's a little locator. Are you a Tempo user or a Fusion user?
No, I've just used Fusion, but
Okay.
I was talking to somebody and I needed some doc papers and they told me how to get into Tempo and get them, which was easier for me to retrieve because not a lot of people are used to the Fusion.
Okay. Well, I can explain it both ways, but I wanted to explain it the way you'd use the most. So when you're in Fusion, on the right-hand side of the mapping tools, you'll see this little blue map pin. That's the locator tool.
Oh, okay. The little.
And you can put any address, business name, or MLS number. So if they want to live 5 miles from blah, blah, blah business because that's where they're going to work, or if you want to find homes within a half mile that have sold or whatever it might be, you could put the address of whatever focal point you want here, and then draw a circle within 2, 5, 10, 12, 100, zillion miles, whatever you want. So down toward the, let me just put my subject property. Thank y'all for being patient while I teach multiple things here.
But believe me, you'll have to know this.
Okay, so that's my subject property that I'm working with right now, okay? And you can see it's got just a little subtle point to it down toward the bottom. If you come here to the pencil, you're going to pick up a circle, a rectangle, or a polygon. And in your case, your specific question was you wanted to find things within a radius. So if I pick up my tool for the circle there, come as close as possible, but not on top of that little white marker. Click and let go. Oops, I was too close to it. Click and let go, and then you can move your mouse in any direction. And see, right now I'm 22 miles out almost. It's a little largish, by the way, to search in. I didn't zoom in all that much. But the plus and minus in the upper left of the map, I can zoom in and get much closer. So if I wanted to be like a quarter a mile, an eighth of a mile, I could have a lot more control over my circle. But again, just to kind of show you the functionality there. This would be a 5 mile radius, essentially. Did I mention I'm a little OCD-ish? I might be here a minute trying to get it to be just 5 miles. But in this case, it's going to use the circle plus whatever I type over on the left. Okay. So in a certain price range, or with a number of bedrooms and bathrooms and a pool or stories you're built, any of those other things will work in conjunction with what you do on the map.
Okay, and then you're going to
close date range.
And then you're going to hit results,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll show you all the results.
Show you everything that fits all the criteria you put, either just the circle you drew. If it can, right now with only a circle and a 5-ish mile radius, I've got over the 500 limit. So I can't see all 974 of those because it's too fast.
Does it do the math for you, or it's just going to give you those listings?
It'll give you the listings, but then there is the quick CMA tool and the Stats Pro section where you can generate statistical information on the properties.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, and we'll do that again. Don't worry, ladies. We're going to search by map again. But that's your overview, your aerial view of search by map real quick. And then back to our home page where we're going to search for previous MLS entries. Did you find some? Good, perfect, okay. And are you okay in the back row too?
I am.
You're good? All right. I think y'all both will holler across the vast expanse of classroom if you need me. I mean, we're all right here. We can just talk about it if you need me. All right. Search results in however many times. Again, it was in MLS. In this case, it's only been the one time, so I make it easy on myself. In the Fusion system, if you click this tiny little magnifying glass right to the side of the MLS number, you get the full detailed report. So I can view any photos that were available. I can see the remarks that were written about it. If it said brand new air conditioner, is that good? It was great in 06, right? This home, he purchased it in September of 06. So how old's the air conditioner now? Nearing the end of its, estimated 10 years-ish of life in Texas humidity and all that. I know. That's the only math. I'm not good at math, so that's the only math that I do. Notice I didn't tell you how many years old it is, right? But paying attention to what they wrote, can help you learn something about the house. if they were really good listing agents and they wrote good, helpful things, some people write not so helpful things. So that's another fun, exciting scavenger hunt. All new AC in 2002, so again, it's 2014 now. Oldish unit if that's not been replaced, so that's something that you can now know to ask the current owner of the home. Hey, I noticed it had an AC in 02, any issues, still working okay? Because you know it's getting older, it's on the end of its lifespan. Did you have a question?
I do.
Or comment, or either, or both?
Question. Comment, you're fabulous, thank you.
Thanks.
Is it possible to search for keywords in agent or public remarks?
It is technologically possible. The functionality exists.
Yes.
You have to predict what a listing agent would have written and
Yes.
how they would have written it is my motherly input there. So if I wanted to search for
Treehouse.
treehouse, is that one word or two? Is that hyphenated or not?
I would search.
Right. Okay. So yes to all of those because potentially a listing agent wrote it
Right.
any of those ways. So you could search by that, but you'd have to play with it a little. Maybe search for the word tree. Down towards the bottom of your search criteria, where's my mouse? Here it is. If you go to criteria,
Okay.
down at the bottom we have add fields.
Yes.
One of the many fields is agent remarks. Okay, so if I click on add fields and click the drop up menu, they tell me that's a drop down, but it goes up, so I'm totally bucking the system on that one. And the hardest part of this is knowing what that field is exactly called. Is it called agent remarks?
Doesn't look like it.
It is called, if I can get my mouse, she works when she wants to.
Don't tell us again what you call that button on the left. On
The chiclet. I'm a native Texan, native Houstonian, and it comes out in 19 syllables. All right, so agent remarks. So let's go back.
There is a style of home in the Woodlands called